Hello, everyone. My name is Ebube, and welcome to the Skill Spotlight, a youth-led workshop series with the Skills to Sustain program, hosted by EnvironBuzz Magazine, an initiative of Environment Focus Incorporated. Today's workshop will explore how the digital sector and artificial intelligence is transforming and revolutionizing sustainability efforts in the built environment. This workshop also has a focus on data visualization, a skill that helps organizations use technology, graphs, charts, and strategic thinking to improve operations, solve problems, and create positive impacts. Okay, to help us explore this topic, we are joined by industry expert Kirk Johnson from Epic's Clean Tech Studios and Eco-Efficiency Canada, who over the last 2 decades has been one of the leading innovators in advancing energy efficiency and market transformation programs. Welcome, Kirk. How are you doing?
Hi, how you doing? It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm glad you guys came to the Cube. I'm happy to join you guys for your presentation. This is fantastic.
Is there anything you would like to let the audience know about yourself?
A lot of the stuff is on the wall, on the boards there already. But all to say, clean tech and eco-efficiency and energy efficiency have been around for a very long time, well before the 70s, if you will. But it's coming in waves and cycles, and it changes and evolves. So we have now turned it into something we call market transformation. So that is something that I would like to leave people, which is as we move forward, it's not just the energy, or it's not just the emissions, and it's not just the jobs. It's all of it together in an interrelated fashion, and we call it market transformation because we're affecting the market and all the elements of it. So I recommend and suggest you guys to kind of expand your lens a little, if you will, when you start thinking about sustainability and all the elements.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I can't wait to hear your insights throughout our conversation. Now, let's look at our agenda. We will start off this session by learning about our 3 learning layers: knowledge, application, and transferability. During each of these layers, I will ask our expert 3 questions meant to help us realize our learning outcomes. Then, we will recap by looking through our key takeaways. Finally, we will head into our Q&A session where we will answer your questions through the live chat.
That's fantastic.
Okay, it is now time for our first learning layer, knowledge. In this layer, we will learn about the built environment and its connection to sustainability by asking our expert 3 questions. Question 1, what is the built environment?
Well, hello, everyone. Pleasure to join your session over here. In the context for Canada, the built environment is all of the man-made structures, if you will. There are many elements of the built environment, but the 3 that I focus on are the buildings itself, the infrastructure that feeds into it, if you will, so the water and the electricity and all the services, including internet and communications, and then the surrounding green space on the site as well. So that is the built environment for the boundaries of what I cover in my area. And in Canada, we've got about 16 million residential homes and just over 500,000 commercial and residential multifamily buildings. So that is the built environment in our area. And when we're talking about the built environment from a sustainability standpoint, it certainly has a carbon footprint. It clocks in at around 13% of the GHG number, but for many cities and municipalities, these buildings represent up to a third, sometimes even half of the emissions for the surrounding urbanization areas and municipalities and denser areas. And it's one of the last areas where there's some real potential to achieve some significant savings.
Okay, let's move on to question 2. What has your journey working in the built environment sector been like? How does your work differ now from when you first started?
Well, mine is a longer journey. I've been doing this for a while, like pre-Y2K. I started off working on the construction sites building out the brains, the building automation systems for commercial office buildings, office towers, public sector buildings as well. So my journey has been working in it as a job and as delivering systems inside that sector. And at around the 95 mark, I started realizing that there were some real opportunities to achieve energy savings for people that had benefits for their business bottom line, but also benefits for the planet as well. I sort of dove into that, and as such started working for energy services companies and utilities where we're able to do larger and larger projects. So I went from hundreds of thousands of dollars to $1 million projects, and ultimately one of the larger projects we did was a $20 million project for one of the school boards where we upgraded, I think it was 150 plus of the schools, replacing their boilers, improving their heating and ventilation, and improving their renewables as well. So my journey has been starting off with technical items, moving into energy, going to bigger and bigger projects, and then realizing that it wasn't a technical issue. Oftentimes it's issues of risk and finance and even understanding of this innovation that we're asking to happen here. People aren't always embracing of the innovation. So you have to help people get used to innovation and change, right? So my journey then evolved into helping people manage and guide themselves through their journeys through innovation and change. And then I started realizing that we needed to make changes to the system itself, to the programs that support change. And so I went from working on building these projects to working inside public sector buildings. And there we started designing the programs to help other people. And oftentimes that was either in capacity building programs or workforce development programs and even incentive programs. And so that's how it evolved into helping people bridge and manage that transformation. Ultimately, I realized that we have to help people navigate themselves into new jobs and new careers, if you will. So with that, I started realizing that we have to change the way we deliver workforce development. And that was a real great opportunity for me. I had a chance to work with some great organizations like Waterloo, like Humber College, where we developed specific programs either for students or for third parties. And most recently, where we are right now, we've developed this new experiential workforce development program with BOMA Canada for the Epics Inspire program.
That was quite the journey.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next question number 3. What does sustainability mean to you, and how do you apply or strive for it in your field of work?
Well, sustainability means to me helping people navigate change that benefits the people, the planet, and their own individual bottom line. But when I talk about it, it also means helping people navigate the innovation, whether it's embracing AI, whether it's embracing heat pump, whether it's embracing new financial models. It's all about adapting to new changes and new ways of doing business, new ways of delivering projects, new ways of designing buildings, new ways of delivering heat. But it's all about navigating your way through these new ways, right? How I apply and strive for it in my field of work is there's something called the technology adoption life cycle. We recognize that when you are working in market transformation, when you're working in sustainability, there will be visionaries. Now, they are high maintenance, as I would say, but they are embracing of new technologies. So when you're dealing with these early adopters, you have to be able to give them something that is bespoke, right? Something that is tailored. Then you've got the early majority, right? The early majority are the ones that want proven sources, and they're called the pragmatists, right? They're not about the awards and the gloss and wouldn't it be cool to be the first to. They want to be, I've got to take this to the board. It has to make sense. It has to fit my paybacks. It has to be easy. It has to be something that my team can digest very easily. And so I recognize that when you're dealing with early adopter people, you work and you speak their language, you meet them where they're at. When you're dealing with pragmatists, you normalize and socialize, right? So it's not about wouldn't it be cool to be on the cover? It's didn't you know that your fellow colleague has done 5 of these already, right? And so if someone else has done 5 of these already, the pragmatist is like, it's time for me, right? And so that's how I'm working with it right now.
Okay, let's move on to our second learning layer, adaptability. In this layer, we will learn about the relationship between technology, AI, the built environment, and sustainability.
Fantastic.
Question 1. What is the Epic Studio? How did it come to fruition? What inspired the decision to bring your work into a digital experiential learning space?
Okay. Well, this is the Epic Studio. It is called the BOMA Canada Inspire Potential Immersive Clean Tech Studio. And it was developed as a response to the need to help people bridge the gap between all of these new disruptive technologies that are making things really amazing, but also making things different. And sometimes that is unsettling. So we built the Epic's Inspire Studio to help job seekers, architects and engineers, clean tech skill trades, post-secondary students, and building professionals to be able to navigate the energy transition. That's the key goal. And what we understood was that we have these disruptive technologies that's causing all of this change. Let's leverage these disruptive technologies and turn it into a digital experiential learning space. So we've got it where we've got digital twins and we're able to show 3D models. We're able to show Autodesk BIM models. We're able to show immersive content in a 360 space. There's touch walls and stuff like that. And so what we wanted to do is help people that are on the more financial and business side as asset managers to go to these spaces and mechanical rooms in an environment that they're comfortable with, which is often in this sort of immersive media room. And also when we're helping upskill people for building operations staff, if you take them to a place that they're familiar with, they know their mechanical rooms, they know their buildings. So if you can put the information, put the education right on top of the building, right on top of the equipment, and so they see it in context, they will be more willing to engage with the subject matter and more willing and easier to retain the information as well. So how did it come to fruition? We worked with several partners, and in this case, we had worked on a VR project in the past. And what we understood was that whenever you're doing something that is 360 or virtual reality, it's an incredible tool, but the learning curve, that on-ramp to getting good at it, was very difficult. So if we could take the best elements of immersive learning and remove some of the challenges like the helmet and the navigation, then we would be in a good situation.
Okay, thank you, Kirk.
I will say I've been there and it was a very cool experience, very immersive. It's a very nice space to be in. Okay, question number 2. How is AI currently being used to achieve sustainability in the built environment, and how is it applied in the Epic Studio?
Okay, what we understand with AI is it's very good at processing lots of dispersed elements, coming up with recommendations in real time. And so in our sustainability lens for the built environment, We call that fault detection and diagnostic. That is the getting you to the point where we are identifying the outdoor air temperatures, if there is a valve in alarm, if someone in the space has high temperatures, if there is a economizer that is out of sequence, and rather than giving you 5 different alarms and you don't know what to do with it, it will take all of that information and come up with a decision that says, based on all of these disparate inputs, we're able to identify what this relates to in terms of 3 or 4 issues, what the impacts are for comfort of the space, what the impacts are for emissions, what are the impacts are for cost of operating the facility. And it'll say, you have a system that is not in optimal state. The occupants will have a comfort issue of 2 to 3 degrees off of set point. Your carbon footprint will increase by half a ton or X, and the cost for this will be so many dollars per hour. We have recommendations for you to do X, Y, and Z, and then it's up to you to make a decision. All right, so that is fault detection and diagnostic, FDD, and that is in play right now in the built environment, and it works really well, and it has some sensational paybacks in under 3 years, under 5 years even, right? So that is one way that it's being used. When we're talking about things like the design of retrofits, for example, a lot of new AI tools are being used to help minimize repetitive tasks for architects and engineers and energy analysts. So if I'm coming up with a program that for retrofit of a building, I'm able to come up with 400 different scenarios that I'm looking at, and that will be generated by the platform itself. And then I will have the ability to pick and choose the solutions that I want and get those down from 400 to 40. And that way I'm able to pull in the input from the asset manager, pull in the inputs from the building operator, pull in the inputs from the energy manager and my design team, and pull all those together and let everyone have their hand in the decision-making process. The AI is basically taking away some of the repetitive tasks, providing a lot more scenarios that people are able to very easily filter down to get to the sweet spot.
Thank you, Kirk.
Well,
It's great to see how AI is being used, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for AI in the built environment.
we're just getting started.
Mhm. Question number 3. The Epic Studio has 4 learning streams, one of which is retrofit planning. What are deep retrofits and how do they help achieve sustainability?
That's a great question. Yes, one of the 4 streams that we do clean tech as a stream, building optimization as a stream, building commissioning, which is existing building commissioning as a stream, and this one which we're talking about is retrofit planning. So these deep retrofits in Toronto, we've identified deep retrofits as energy reductions of more than 50% reductions in energy or carbon. And so what that means is there's net zero, which means going to 0 footprint, if you will. But we recognize that sometimes a phased approach is needed, and sometimes the business case isn't there. And so the concept of a deep retrofit, 50% or more energy reduction or emissions reduction, is a great target to aspire to for many people in the built environment, right? And so how that helps us achieve sustainability is, again, you're meeting people where they're at. If you're talking to the visionaries, they've probably already done a deep retrofit. They're focused on net zero. They're focused on net positive. They're focused on renewables, demand response, thermal storage, the cool stuff, right? If you're talking to the pragmatist, you may not necessarily be able to or want to push them to a net zero scenario. Sometimes their sort of comfort zone is a deep retrofit in a phased approach. A great phrase that I learned from my honey was, it doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful, right? A deep retrofit, even in a phased approach, is an ambitious undertaking that has a viable payback to it, but it is an ambitious undertaking, and it helps us, again, meet people where they're at.
Thank you, Kirk.
It's great to hear how deep retrofits are helping achieve sustainability. I love that quote from your wife about it doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. Our first reflection is, how do you think AI can help achieve sustainability goals, and what potential drawbacks should organizations and communities be mindful of? So as we go through a presentation, you can think about that and reflect. Now it's time for our third and final learning layer, transferability. In this learning layer, we're going to try and understand the versatility of the Epic Studios, skills needed to work in the digital and built environment sectors, and ways that you can promote sustainability right now. Okay, question 1. How does the digital experiential learning space of the Epic Studio help work towards achieving sustainability goals across multiple sectors?
Okay, so digital experiential learning works in several forms. What we're trying to do is help people have a preview of the entire experience of going through that journey from beginning and middle and end as they go through a project, when they're starting to look at identifying opportunities, learning terminologies, practicing on models, working in interactive spaces. You're able to do a practice run inside the cube, and you can see where you are seeing friction, where you are seeing smooth sailing, if you will, and that helps people when they get into the real. And most importantly, it helps them be motivated to make that journey. So that's one way of doing it, right? The second way of doing that is you're able to bring your external actual environments into this immersive media space, right? And in doing so, you can add in educational benefits and hot buttons and interactive elements so that people can learn in context, and also help people collaborate together. In this room, people can bring in their own mechanical rooms and test out scenarios and test out different models. They can use it for training their teams, but also they can come in and bring their teams to come in and have those real conversations. The third way that we do things in this space is we help people envision a future for their careers. This is the workforce development space, and we have a specific outreach for job seekers and architects and engineers and clean tech skilled trades. They just announced a $2 billion increment to the $6 billion for skilled trades funding. So for all of those people that are interested in skilled trades careers, or thinking they might think about a skilled trades career, this is a space where you could come in and see what it's like to be a PV installer, be an heating, ventilation, and air conditioning electrician, and visualize that in the space. And in doing so, not just get excited about it. The experiential part is fun, but it's the learning part that we're emphasizing as well. Once you get used to that, then you go to the next question is, well, do my skill sets help me in this job? Am I a good fit for that? And then you're able to go through and see, here's a map that shows all of the skills required to be an electrician. In visualizing that and leveraging these experiential spaces, you're able to help people advance their careers.
Thank you, Kirk.
That was great. I hope through that the audience can really see how transferable and versatile the Epic Studio is, and how you can use it for really almost anything you want to do towards sustainability. Okay, question 2. What skills can our audience develop to work at the intersection of AI sustainability, and the built environment?
So that's a great question. So the skills that you develop at the intersection of sustainability, the built environment, and AI, those are the hard skills, right? I would say when we're looking at AI, you're looking at fault detection and diagnostic, right? You want to be able to understand prompt engineering, for example. You want to be able to understand risk analysis. You want to be able to understand key elements of key technology systems like heat pumps, air tightness, even be able to read a drone thermography report, right? Now, when we talk about built environment, sustainability, and AI, it's not just the hard skills, it's the soft skills as well that you're looking at, right? And in that case, you need to have resilience. You need to have great communication skills. You need to have the ability to collaborate with others, right? So all of those things that make you excellent in business and in life are needed for you to take advantage of AI, sustainability, and the built environment. What we find when we're doing workforce development, and we try and do that here, is we help people leverage the innate soft skills that they're very good at and help them identify the ones where they're not, right? And so that's something that I encourage people to do. There's something called an ikigai, right? That is Japanese for reason for getting out of bed in the morning. And it is the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs from you, and what you can be paid for, right? So when you look at the skills to develop, think about it in what is your ikigai, what is going to make you get out of bed in the morning, so that you're not chasing skills, you're being true to your ikigai, right? And that will make a whole lot of navigation in this period of energy transition and market disruption easy, because the world will change around you. The skills that you need will change as well, but your ikigai is something that is true to you.
Thank you, Kirk. Okay, now it's time for our final question. Question number 3. What can our audience do right now to help achieve or promote sustainability in other sectors?
There's 2 things that I would say, right? Number 1 is leverage the organizations that are already there supporting your organization. There's many other great organizations. And once you know your ikigai, finding those organizations will be easy. And many of you on the call are young, so they're very, very embracing of youth, of underrepresented groups, and students as well. Excuse me. There's often great opportunities at discounted prices to participate in high-level organizations and conferences in this position of youth, because you're bringing a lens and you are the next generation. So don't be afraid that you're not ready for it. They're in fact looking for exactly your persona, your archetype, if you will, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is learn to be able to code switch, if you will, and be bilingual or trilingual in a couple of ways. If you're talking to an engineer, be able to speak their language. If you're talking to a business person, be able to speak their language. If you can talk about sustainability to an architect and an engineer, and they want to know about coefficients of performance or impacts on the defrost cycle, be able to speak their language and be honest and say, that might be out of my comfort zone, but I can speak confidently on this stuff. What we try and do at Epics is give people the opportunity to see the terminology in use, to learn the terminology as well, so that you're able to speak the language of business, the language of technology, the language of operations, the language of even academia as well. We invite all of you to come into the Epic studio. It is, of course, free, right, for people to participate. And so if you guys have an interest in sustainability or the built environment, you are welcome to go to epix.studio and sign up for one of the sessions on retrofit planning or skill trades or clean tech, et cetera, et cetera.
Quick reflection. Now that you've heard from our expert, Kirk, what are some ways you can promote sustainability in your life or in your line of work? Okay, now we can move on to our key takeaways.
So in terms of key takeaways, focus on not just the energy being consumed, but also focus on the energy being generated, right? One of the opportunities we have now is we can help the grid, right? So when you're thinking of the built environment, think of the built environment not as something that is generating carbon, but something that might actually be helping to reduce the carbon footprint of either municipalities or the province, right? So that's one way, one additional extra mile on that. In terms of digital innovation and things like data visualization, recognize that data is meaningless if it doesn't have actionable intelligence coming out of it, right? So always strive in your data visualization to be able for people to come in, quickly arrive at understanding, and then be able to act on that, right? The last one is on the skill set. When you find your ikigai, recognize that people relate to the vibes that you put out, right? So you can be driven and focused, but your ability to engage with people at their level, right, while also being true to yourself, is going to be the determinant on whether things move faster or slower.
Thank you, Kirk. Now it's time for our Q&A session. At this point in time, if you have any questions, you can ask them in the chat during our session, and me and Kirk will be there to answer your questions.
Fantastic.
Okay, I hope we answered all of your questions. If not, you can contact us either through EnvironBuzz or scan the websites, LinkedIn's, Instagram's, Facebook is all there for you. If you want to contact our expert, Kirk, who kindly joined us today, you can go to his Epix website, epix.studio, or contact him through LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn. I would like to thank everyone for joining us on our skills workshop. I hope you were able to take something from this journey. Thank you for being here throughout my journey and listening to me and Kirk talk about the digital and the built environment. Thank you.
Kirk out.